Oi pessoal, tudo bem? Aqui é Luciana da Street Smart Brazil. So what is the difference between ESTE and ESSE, and how do you use ISSO or AQUILO? Well, these are demonstrative pronouns in Portuguese, and the difference between them and how to use them is a common question among those learning Portuguese. In this Portuguese lesson, I use 20 examples to show you how to use the demonstrative pronouns in Portuguese in different situations. You will learn the differences between them and the differences between what the Portuguese grammar says and how we Brazilians actually use them in everyday life. I will also give you a great tip to avoid a very common mistake. I want to start by taking a moment to establish the basics about demonstrative pronouns because getting familiar with the basics makes the journey ahead easier. The first thing to know is that demonstrative pronouns are words we use daily. So if you don't like grammar and you don't like the name demonstrative pronouns, it's okay. We use them every day. As the book Ponto de Encontro puts it, demonstrative pronouns are how you point out and identify people and things. I have a link to the book in the video description just in case you're curious. So in English, you have this and that, these, those. So these pronouns can be singular or plural, and you will see that in Portuguese they can also be masculine or feminine, or gender neutral. The demonstrative pronouns can refer to items in space or time. For example, when I say this year, the demonstrative pronoun this is referring to what I'm talking about in sense of time. It tells you that I'm talking about the current year. On the other hand, when I ask who is that person, the demonstrative pronoun that refers to someone who is not with us, close to us, at the moment of the conversation. So it refers to that person in terms of space. On the blog post for this lesson, I have a table with all the Portuguese demonstrative pronouns, so visit the blog post to see all of them together. Also, all the explanations I give in the video and all the examples and all the translations of examples, everything is on the blog post and links to additional lessons. There is a link to the blog post in the video description. Here in the video, I'm not going to show you the table. I will show you 20 examples using the pronouns in full sentences so you can learn how to use them in different situations. The first question is, what is the difference between este with the T, and I'm color coding here, the T with a green color, and esse with the two S's, I'm color coding in blue. Este and the plural estes and the feminine esta, the plural estas, you use those to refer to items that are closer to you in space or time, and I will show you these in examples in just a moment. Esse, esses, essa, essas are used to refer to items that are closer to the other person in space or time. And we also have aquele, aqueles, aquela, aquelas, which are used to refer to items that are more distant. So this is Sarah. She's holding her new phone. She's excited about her new phone. And she's telling her friend, this phone is great. So telephone is a masculine singular noun. And the phone is closer to her than to anyone else, than to her friend. So she uses este. Este telefone é ótimo. Este telefone é ótimo. If Sarah had two phones in her hands, she would use the plural, estes. Estes telefones são ótimos. I'm not going to show you the plural version of every example here in the video, but I have it on the blog post. This is my friend João. He's using a pen and he's thinking, wow, this pen is huge. Esta caneta é enorme. So pen is a feminine singular noun. He's holding the pen, so it's close to him, and so that's why he says esta. Esta caneta é enorme. Now, is this really how we speak in Brazil? Well, it's not how I speak. I would say esse and essa in the examples I just showed you, and no one in Brazil would question it. The difference between este and esse is frequently ignored in spoken Portuguese in Brazil. However, if you're going to write documents for business or school, you should know the grammatically correct manner to use the demonstrative pronouns in Portuguese. So this is Paulo. He's with his girlfriend Clarissa, and he asks her, is this top new? Well, top here, I'm using the word camiseta. It's a feminine singular noun, and it's her top, not his top. So he uses essa. Essa camiseta é nova? Essa camiseta é nova. Now we have Bianca. She's having coffee with her friend Melissa, who is reading a book. And Bianca asks, is this book good? Well, book, livro, is masculine and singular, and the book is closer to her friend than it is to Bianca, so she uses esse. Esse livro é bom? Esse livro é bom. Now let's see an example with AQUELE, which, like I said, it's for things that are more distant from you. Antonio is walking down the street with his friend Clovis. He points to a restaurant at the other side of the street, and he says, that restaurant is new. Aquele restaurante é novo. Aquele restaurante é novo. Here's another example. I am reminiscing about the fabulous days that my friend Carol and I spent at Morro de São Paulo, which is true. We had such a good time there. Well, that trip was a long time ago. So I tell Carol, that trip was wonderful. Aquela viagem foi maravilhosa. Aquela viagem foi maravilhosa. Hey, let me take a second here to ask you to please like the lesson. If they are useful, if you're learning Portuguese with me, please support me by liking the lesson, subscribe to the channel, share my lesson with friends who are learning Portuguese, and always feel free to ask questions in the comments. Muito obrigada. In all the examples I just showed you, the noun, I mean the object, the person, the thing I'm talking about, was stated together with the pronoun, right? So all the sentences had that structure of demonstrative pronoun plus the noun, like este telefone, essa camiseta. Is it always like this? No, it's not always like this. If it is clear what you are referring to, you don't have to mention the noun again. Let me show you. Carol and I are window shopping at the mall and we stop to check out a shop's window. There are two dresses there. And I point to the red dress in front of us. And I say, oh, I love this dress. Adorei esse vestido. Adorei esse vestido. Now, Carol prefers the other dress on the other side of the window. So she says, I prefer that one. Now, because that one is more distant from us, she's using aquele. Eu prefiro aquele. And she's not repeating dress because we know it's a dress that we're talking about. In English, we also don't need to repeat the noun, but there is one difference. In English, you say, I prefer that one. And in Portuguese, we don't use the word one like that. So we basically just say, I prefer that. So still thinking about Carol and I window shopping, and Carol wants to talk about a skirt after my comment about the dress. So if I say, adorei esse vestido, I love that dress, she will say, oh, I love that skirt. Eu adorei aquela saia. Eu adorei aquela saia. Did you notice that in this example and the one before, I used adorei in the past tense, but I translated as I love it in the present tense? I have a lesson about this. The link is in the video description. I want to give you one more example here at the mall. Carol and I stop in front of a different shop. We're looking at sandals. And Carol says, oh, beautiful sandals. Do you prefer this yellow one or that blue one? Que sandálias lindas. Você prefere essa amarela ou aquela azul? Que sandálias lindas. Você prefere essa amarela ou aquela azul? So again, look that in English, you would say, do you prefer the yellow one or the blue one? But we do not use one in this sense in Portuguese, and I really want you to keep that in mind because it's a common mistake that I hear. Now, this is important too. Este, esse, aquele, as you've seen, they have a feminine form and a plural form. So they agree in gender and in number with the item or the noun, the object, the person that they refer to. On the other hand, now we're going to talk about isto, isso, aquilo, and they do not change with gender or number. In other words, there is no feminine version and no plural version of isto, isso, or aquilo. And very important, these pronouns, isto, isso, aquilo, are never followed by a noun. They're never followed by the thing you're talking about. So remember this and you will avoid the most common mistake I see with the use of these demonstrative pronouns in Portuguese. Similarly to the other pronouns, isto with a T is used to refer to items that are closer to you, isso is used to refer to items that are closer to the other person, and aquilo is used for items that are more distant. Now you may be wondering, When do I use isto, isso, aquilo? You use these ones to refer to a general idea. Let me show you. I get home after work and I find my husband, Carl, building something in the living room. And I say, what is that? O que é isso? O que é isso? And Carl answers, this is a new table that has just arrived. Isto é uma mesa nova que acabou de chegar. Isto é uma mesa nova que acabou de chegar. So you see, when I ask the question, it's a general idea. I don't have anything after isso. O que é isso? He's saying isto é, so the word isto is followed by a verb, not a noun. And I want to say this again, I'm using the pronouns here according to the grammar, but in real life, Carl would have probably said isso. Avoid this common mistake. Do not say o que é isso coisa. What is this thing? This is not correct. Isto, isso, and aquilo are never followed by a noun. Also avoid asking o que é essa coisa? What is this thing? While this isn't technically wrong, it usually doesn't sound natural. The most natural question is, o que é isso? O que é isso? So here's another example using isso. I'm having one of those days, and I say, today I feel angry at the world. Hoje estou com raiva do mundo. And my friend Carol says, oh, don't say that. What happened? Não diga isso. O que aconteceu? Não diga isso. O que aconteceu? This is Heleno. He's hanging out with a couple of friends and he sees something strange in the sky. And he says, guys, what is that in the sky? Gente, o que é aquilo no céu? Great. Now let's see how to use este, esse in business letters. When you are writing an email or a business letter, you use este, esta, to refer to your organization, and you use ESSE, ESSA to refer to the organization you are writing to. Let me show you. So I'm replying to an email that I got from a company inquiring about Portuguese lessons for their staff. And I say, this school, so I'm referring to my business, right? This school has over 10 years of experience teaching Portuguese via video meetings. So here's in Portuguese. Esta escola tem mais de 10 anos de experiência ensinando português por videoconferência. So when I said that in spoken Brazilian Portuguese we usually use essa instead of esta, that doesn't happen in written communication. We use it correctly because otherwise people will get confused. They won't know what company I'm talking about. So for my school, I say esta escola. Now when I talk about their company, when I say, I'm sure that your company will be happy with our classes, I use essa. Tenho certeza que essa empresa ficará satisfeita com nossas aulas. And now I'm going to show you how to use the demonstrative pronouns to refer to time and dates. Este, esta, since it's something that is always closer to you, it's the present time. Esse, essa, will be past or future time, and aquele, aquela, past or future time that is more distant. So it's very common for us Brazilians to say esta semana, this week, especially in written communication, and especially in business communication. Este mês, this month, like the current month. Este ano, the current year. Now when I say aquele dia, it's far from me, that day. Aquele ano, that year. If you do business in Portuguese, this is important. It's very common for business documents to say nesta data. Literally, it means on this date. It means today. Nesta is a contraction of the preposition em and the pronoun esta. I'm gonna talk about contractions in a little while. So here's an example. I ask my friend Carol, when are you going to Brazil? The coming week? Quando você vai ao Brasil? Essa semana que vem? And Carol says, no, I travel this week on Friday. Não, viajo esta semana, na sexta-feira. Another example, in 2017, I took 2 wonderful trips. That was a fantastic year. And this is true. This picture is me at Victoria Falls. It's on the border between Zambia and Zimbabwe. We were staying in Zimbabwe, but we crossed to Zambia to visit the park. It was so beautiful. Okay, so let me read this one in Portuguese. Em 2017, eu fiz 2 viagens maravilhosas. Aquele foi um ano fantástico. Em 2017, eu fiz 2 viagens maravilhosas. Aquele foi um ano fantástico. Now we're gonna see contractions between prepositions and demonstrative pronouns. I love contractions of articles and prepositions in Portuguese. Have you ever heard that? No? Me neither. But to speak awesome Portuguese, you have to use the contractions. So here we go. And once you understand how they work, things get easier. I will give you examples to show you how the contractions work. And on the blog post, you will find a list of all the possible contractions of demonstrative pronouns and prepositions. Keep in mind the contractions are mandatory. They're not optional. So let's go back to the example in which I am reminiscing about my trip to Morro de São Paulo with Carol. Carol, what is the name of that inn where we stayed in Morro de São Paulo? Carol, como é o nome daquela pousada onde a gente ficou em Morro de São Paulo? Let me show you exactly what's happening. The name of that inn, o nome de aquela pousada. Like I said, the contraction is mandatory, so de plus aquela becomes daquela. Como é o nome daquela pousada? So Bianca is at the cashier at the bookstore to pay for a book. The person next to her at the other cashier sees the book and makes a comment. Oh, I really liked that book. I hope you like it too. Eu gostei muito desse livro. Espero que você também goste. So you may be asking, why de, why desse in this sentence? It is because in Portuguese the verb gostar requires the use of the preposition de. So now I have to make the contraction, de esse, desse. I have a lesson with all you need to know to use the verb gostar correctly. The link is in the video description. Clovis and Antonio are having drinks. Clovis mentions an argument between Antonio and a common friend, and then Antonio says, I don't want to talk about that. Não quero falar disso. I don't want to think about that anymore. Não quero mais pensar nisso. So here's what's happening here. Falar de, to talk about something. Falar de isso, disso. To think about something, pensar em isso, pensar nisso. Okay, now let's see the contraction of the preposition a, which will only contract with aquele and aquela, because then it becomes the preposition a with a word beginning in a. So I'm talking about my trip to Africa. It was a long flight, actually more than one long flight, and I was exhausted when we got to the hotel, so I can say, at that point, I just wanted to go to bed and sleep for the rest of the day. Which is absolutely true, that's how I felt. Àquela altura, eu só queria cair na cama e dormir o resto do dia. So I have at that, aquela. I'm using altura instead of ponto for point, because I wanted to show you the feminine version here. So all that happens is that the first A of aquela gets that accent to the left side, which is called crase, but the pronunciation does not change. Àquela altura. So Carl and I are deciding where to go for dinner. And then I say, why don't we go to that same restaurant where we had dinner last week? I loved the food. Por que não vamos àquele mesmo restaurante onde jantamos na semana passada? Eu adorei a comida. So with the verb ir, por que não vamos, I need the preposition a, and then I will have aquele restaurante. So I make the contraction and it becomes aquele with the accent. If you have questions, please write them in the comments. I am happy to answer questions. Please hit the like button. Please, I very much appreciate your support. The secret to learn any language and to speak with confidence is practice. Lots of practice. We offer Portuguese lessons via video meetings. One-on-one lessons are the best way to get the most out of each class because it really is all about you. You learn at your pace. You spend your class time practicing entirely with a native speaker and you have a lot of control over your schedule. So visit us at streetsmartbrazil.com. Visit our testimonials page. We have awesome testimonials so you see that our clients are happy learning with us. And then also book a trial lesson with us. Muito obrigada mais uma vez. Tchau, tchau.